make it. Um, but so don't mind that. But I wanted to just say that this is honestly one of the uh, most pressing topics for parents and grandparents and caregivers that have young children in their lives. And it's the most mysterious, it's the most complicated. There's the most mixed messaging about it out there in the world. So today we're going to talk about toilet learning at home in our Montessori Moment Live. And what makes it live is that you can put questions in the chat and we will talk about it. And depending how the timing goes, we could even, just unmute and have a conversation about any of this. So let's get started. First, a super quick introduction of myself. I'm Jessica Ostrov. I'm the regional director of Montessori education for Endeavor Schools in Minnesota. And as I said, we have 11 Endeavor schools in Minnesota. That's 8 step-by-step Montessori schools, 2 Peaceful Valley Montessori schools, and 1 Wood Park Montessori school. And I also work with 2 schools in San Diego, which is pretty fun. So I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. That is where I'm zooming to you from right now. I've been in Montessori for 25 years. The previous school I was at was for 9 years. I've been in this role for over 4 years. And we served toddler through junior high at that school. So we had a big range. And my son there, that's my son and I at the Grand Canyon, he was able to go to that school through junior high. So I've had seen Montessori up close and personal at every level through 8th grade. I got my AMI diploma from the Montessori Center of Minnesota. I graduated from the University of Minnesota with a horticulture degree, and then I went to Hamlin for my master's of natural science and environmental education, and then Mighty Montessori Institute for Teacher Education at Endeavor. That is the 0 to 3 training. That was an AMS diploma. So I just absolutely adore my role here at Endeavor. I feel so lucky. I do a lot of training and professional development with all of our schools, helping them get connected with trainings, giving professional development, doing environmental design support, all of the things, all of the Montessori things. So it's honestly the thing I could love. I talk about all day, every day, and I never get tired of it. So there my son is, and I am in Israel on a kibbutz where I lived when I was in my early 20s. And I took him back there to visit. There was this statue of a mama and a baby. And I loved it so much when I lived there in my early 20s that I had to bring my baby back to see it. So the introduction, we're kind of going through that now. We're going to talk about toddler development, just a brief snapshot of toddler development so that we can think about the principles of toddler growth and development and how that informs the way the Montessori method was formed regarding toilet independence. That is really what Dr. Montessori did in all areas, was that she did a lot of research and observation of children and thought about what were the patterns and the trends that she was noticing. And she created this method, or it kind of unfolded itself for her when she really saw the way that children learn according to their natural tendencies, natural windows of time when things were more easily adapted, and created this method to go with their natural tendencies instead of conforming them to what sort of adults thought that maybe they should be doing or where they should be in their growth and development. So we'll talk about independence and from the beginning, how the infant time period is very important for laying the foundation for toilet independence. And then some special considerations, a lot of information that I've just picked up pieces from everywhere and put it together in this training that really help us sort of dive into how did toilet learning become what it has become? And we'll just sort of go from there. Uh, and then we have the nuts and bolts, the considerations. And then we'll talk a little bit about neurodivergence and toileting, just a little bit at the end. So stay tuned for all of this. So the principles of toddler development inform the method and timeline of toilet learning in the classroom and at home. So once we understand these uh, observable, predictable characteristics in toddlers, not to say that they're all going to happen in the exact same time, but we generally know the windows of time that these things will happen. And we can use that to our advantage and to our toddlers' advantage for their toilet learning. So coming into consciousness, we'll talk about the concept of an inner teacher, sensitive periods, 3 developmental tasks, and independence. Basically, when we say coming into consciousness, what we're discussing is this concept that toddlers are developing a sense of awareness of themselves and of their part in the community in which they spend time. So when they are emerging from an infant into a toddler, they're still very much in that self-construction mode. And slowly, slowly, over the time that they are in the toddler room, which is 16 to 33 months, they do what is called coming into consciousness, where they start to become more aware of other people, that other people have needs, that they can contribute to a community. And that is, really a powerful moment for a toddler when those things start to fall into place. We'll talk about, or we also discuss this idea of the inner teacher, that every human is born with a spark to learn, that children can actually teach themselves so many things simply by having the opportunity to do so. So the key word here is opportunity. When children have the opportunity and the access, they can do so much more than adults ever really give them credit for. So we really want to talk about how we can identify those moments and those capabilities and give them that access to go forward. Sensitive periods. This is huge. So we work with a organization that has some shorter courses, Montessori courses, and there's a 10-week one that is called Montessori Beginnings. Many, many, many of our staff have done it. And one of the things that they learn in that program is this concept that sensitive periods are windows of time when acquisition of a specific skill happens more readily and joyfully. You'll see an explosion into walking, explosion into talking, reading, writing, all of those skills, they suddenly burst into their consciousness and take off with it. Toileting, the sensitive period for toileting, this is going to blow everybody's mind, actually starts around 12 months when they can walk. So pause on that and we'll get back to it. That might seem radical, but we're gonna unpack it. Research supports this, and working with these opportunities is beneficial for the child and the adult. And then there are three big tasks that all toddlers are working through. So from 0 to 3, but really we're talking about the 16 to 33 month period, adaptation to their time and place in culture, in society, in history, in geography, motor skills, and language development. Those are sort of the three big things that are happening in the toddler self-construction. We're going to break them down just a little bit here. So cultural adaptation, becoming part of their community, constructing themselves to be members of society. They have this beautiful, absorbent mind that takes in all aspects of culture, becoming part of who they are. So bookmark those terms: adaptation, absorbent mind, sensitive periods. These are some Montessori uh, phrases that capture these theories that Dr. Montessori recognized were universal to every child. This desire to build their motor skills. This isn't necessarily a conscious desire. They have an internal need. Their physical development depends on them being able to act upon the desire to climb, to, explore their environment in the physical sense. So balance, equilibrium, strength building, safely saying yes and being close by is key. Proprioception is the sense of where the body is in space. This young friend over here on the bridge, she doesn't necessarily need to look where she's lowering her feet to the lower rungs. She has got proprioception down. It's the, excuse me, it's the same sense we use when we're driving, and we don't have to look at our feet to know which pedal we need to press on. We just know, our body just knows if we want to accelerate or if we want to brake or use the clutch. And then we have language development, and this is another huge area where parents and families can really help the language development. So, communication is essential to culture. We help by providing a language-rich environment with stories, songs, books, and conversation. That is something you can absolutely do at home, and this is a parent pro tip, grandparent pro tip, auntie pro tip, all the things. Talk to toddlers about what they're seeing in the car or while walking outside. Please don't give them devices. The screens take away their opportunity to see the world around them, to attach real language to what they are seeing. When they get slightly older, it's sound games. I spy with my little eye something that starts with house. Do you hear when I say house? right? But first they need to learn the vocabulary of everything that's going around them. That includes verbs and nouns and adjectives and adverbs and it's very and tenses, future, present, and past. All of these things they will not be getting if they are on devices in the car. So see what you can do about refraining from that as much as possible. I know it's tricky, but we got to do it for their development. And then this is really key. The functional independence. Toddlers exhibit an intense desire to do what they see the adults in their lives doing. Cleaning up, preparing food, caring for pets and plants, gardening, etc. These tasks are joyful for the toddler and have endless developmental benefits. Toddlers find sincere joy in pouring themselves something to drink, dressing themselves, washing hands and faces, brushing teeth, caring for their hair. And at this age, the ultimate care of self is toilet independence. And we had a presentation that my boss, Jana Morgan Herman, gave a webinar called Montessori in the Home. So if you are interested in viewing that and you weren't able to make it, or you just want to give it another look, ask your school leader for the recording because that was recorded as well. What are the simple ways that we can make our home more accessible to children? So let's be real. There are a lot of reasons why independence is unintentionally held back from young children. First of all, we love them. We want to do things for those that we love, right? We want to make life easier for them. And let's just be real. Sometimes it's easier for us if we just do it. If we just dress them, if we just feed them, if we just, if we just. But every time that we just do this or that, we're robbing them of the opportunity to synthesize their synapses, to fire their myelin, their all the skills and this building this automatic repertoire of movements, right? So that they can know that this coffee mug is going to be heavy when I lift it, but this plastic cup is going to be light. Except if there's water in it, then it will be heavier, right? We as adults know, what it will take to lift two different things of those different weights. Toddlers don't know that yet. They need to have the opportunity to try and do and fail and try again. And it's really important that we try to build in the time for them to try and do all the things, putting on their shoes, zipping up their coats, watering the plants, chopping some vegetables or fruits, all of the things that they're doing that we do in home. Because remember, by withholding opportunities and access, adults delay the natural development of independence. It may seem counterintuitive, but by allowing and expecting children to do things for themselves, it is a gift. We must show them how and then give them time and space to practice. Remember, adults, our fastest time between A and B is a straight line. It might take toddlers a lot longer and a lot more tries and retries and retries. And we have to give them that chance to do it whenever we possibly can. So look for opportunities to say yes and build in time because sometimes, as we know, we can't. We have to go right now. And then only in those moments will we do it for them. But otherwise, that is really should be part of the schedule, the time for it. And let's also recognize that families want peace in the house. Adults often avoid even healthy struggle with children because we get such little time with them, right? They're at school, likely more waking hours than they're at home. And so we don't want to have a struggle. But some healthy struggle is really important. And if we just swoop in and do everything for them, and then later when they go to college and we can't understand why they don't know how to do their laundry, that is an issue. So let's recognize that it really does start now from 0 to 6, getting them involved in all of their care of self and care of the environment of the home. If you wait until they're in elementary school, they're going to resent you. They're not going to want to do it. They are going to scream and kick. Why should I suddenly start doing this or that? But when they want to say yes is when we need to capitalize on that and let them say yes. And we say yes to their requests. So this is a video. It's just a couple minutes long. You might have seen this before because I might have played it in a different training, but it's one of my favorite things. This is that desire to be independent, to do it herself. And the dad, he's in the front seat. It's time to go, but he's giving her a chance, and he's also kind of giggling at her perseverance there because that buckle is really hard to do on those car seats. Let's see what happens in the video here.
Worry about yourself. Worry about yourself.
Can I help?
No. I help. I don't. You can help when we're out to eat, okay? You can help when we are out to eat.
Okay.
Do you have this sissy?
Probably. You want me to help, Rose?
No. Thank you. No, thank you.
What do you want me to do?
Worry about yourself. Worry about yourself. I'll do this one, so I'm gonna do that. You drive! Worry about yourself. Go drive! Go!
Yes, they want to do it themselves, and we need to show them how and let them try and give them time. So now let's use that little sort of overview of toddler development, all that we know about toddler development, and apply it to toilet learning. So remember that this is not a race. It's a natural part of development. We need to trust the child, follow their rhythms, and prepare the environment in a way that allows uninhibited access. That uninhibited access, I've touched on that a couple times so far. That's really important. So following the child and waiting till they tell us it's going to be too late. We need to have the opportunity there from the earliest of beginnings so that they can actually show us before their words are even ready to tell us. And we're going to talk about how we get all of that going. So here's where we start. We lay the foundation when they're in infants. This is very important. So when you're changing the baby, show them what's in their diaper. Create a connection between what they feel like and what is happening in their diaper, right? Sometimes we're just really distracting them over here and we're changing them down there, or we're talking to somebody else while we're changing them, and there's very little connection happening in the process. It's really important that they start to make a connection to what is happening. Their mother, father, parent, lays them down. They're distracted by a bunch of things and suddenly they're clean and fresh and they don't know what happened. So making that connection and talking them through what we're doing. Sports casting is what we call it. When we talk about what it is that we're doing, I'm going to unsnap your pajamas now. Let's see what's in your diaper today and talk to them about it. Avoid distractions with toys or mobiles when changing. Connect them to what's happening by being face to face and fully integrating them into the process. Allow them to sit on the potty after they are cleaned up. As long as they're able to sit, especially once they can walk, they can definitely sit on a potty. We'll talk about what kind of chair and the potty chairs to buy to have in the bathroom from well before we think they're ever going to use it. Even you could get it as a shower gift and have it in the bathroom from day one. It's never too early to put a potty next to the toilet in the bathroom. So allowing them to sit on the potty after they're cleaned up, their sphincter is more relaxed at this time, and they could have a surprise pee. They might pee when they're sitting down and suddenly some urine comes out and we can point it out. Wow, look at that. You had a surprise pee. Um, Standing changes. So once they can stand, laying them down to change them is not really necessary and it kind of unnecessarily infantilizes them. So my recommendation is to get yourself a stool so you can just sit next to or crowd, sit not too far off the floor and do standing changes. And unless it's this massive blowout, obviously, then when you really got to get in there, you want them to be laying down. But even to wipe a bowel movement, all you have to do is simply ask them to bend over and touch their toes. And then you can have a clean access to the wiping of the bottom. But they're much more engaged when they're standing. You see how this toddler is looking at what's happening. So this adult is doing things with her, not to her, if that makes sense. So really, really keeping her engaged in what's going on, talking through it. I'm going to pull your pants up now. I'll hold it by the waistband so that we can pull your pants up, giving them language, even if they're not ready to speak it back to you. So here is, you might look at this baby and think, oh my goodness, they are so young to be sitting on a potty. But, by providing a simple, accessible potty chair in the bathroom, by the time they're able to stand up, then we're encouraging independence. It could be even earlier. They might crawl over and sit on it. There's no such thing as too early. Allow the child to see you using the toilet as a natural, regular part of the human processes. Now, I promise there's nothing untoward about it. You will not be arrested for letting your child see you using the toilet. In fact, they must, because remember what we talked about with the absorbent mind. The absorbent mind is absorbing the culture, and using the bathroom is just part of the culture. It's care of self, it's what we do. Every single human does it. So they need to see that. So they're very familiar with it. And it's just part of what every human does every single day. So we talked about this a little bit. The timing is everything. This may come as a surprise, but as soon as children can walk, they have control over their lower half. This is the start to that sensitive period, that window of opportunity. You definitely want to start earlier than later. So, uh, because let's think about this for a moment. Before the invention of disposables, which gives children's bodies misleading sensorial information, right? It pulls and wicks that moisture away from their body so they wet, but they don't feel wet, and so their body doesn't recognize the difference. Um, Before there were disposables, toilet independence was absolutely normal and regular and common by 16 to 18 months. So we have to think about children and their biology has not changed. What has changed are the invention of disposable diapers and the adults and our need for convenience, which I don't mean to say that in a snarky way at all. We do need convenience, but can we still recognize areas where we can give them that opportunity to develop naturally and, you know, save our need for convenience in other areas, that you believe me, you'll thank me if you can get them out of their diapers early. Um, this was the norm simply because the child felt the wetness immediately, which feels unpleasant, so they immediately let the adult know that they were uncomfortable, and or the adult saw that the child was wet more quickly and changed them right away. So clean and dry became the norm. When they were wet, or soiled, that was the uncomfortable, unusual part. Now, with this disposable diaper wrapped around their torso every moment of every single day, it creates this warm, humid environment. Very difficult to tell the difference between wet and, having been before wet because the sweat from their body also just makes it moist in there. Let's see here. So toileting timeline. I get a little geeked out about this. I love looking at things like this and thinking about the early 1900s. This really wasn't that long ago. Just over 100 years ago, we had these bulky, hard to wash cloth diapers, which really encouraged toileting to happen before 1 year. By 18 months, children were expected to be diaper free. It just really wasn't a thing to have diapers after about 18 months. Then in the 1950s and 60s, so that is even less than 100 years ago, was the invention of the disposable diaper. The first commercial disposables appeared in the US and Europe. They were expensive but convenient, and they started shifting cultural norms. Parents could wait longer between changes. They didn't have to carry more and so many supplies with them for more frequent changes. Um, they could do longer, road trips, all the things. Then in the 70s and 80s, so this is when I was a baby, this was the mass adaptation or adoption of the disposable diaper. They became affordable and mainstream, and then training got later and later and later, and the average age rose to 2.5 to 3 years in the United States. You can see on this graph here, right? So we started out at 18 months in the 40s and 50s. And then we get all the way up to today where the average age is 3. That is that's 36 months. That is literally double the amount of a lifetime for a toddler to go from 18 to 36 months. Um, think about how much money you'll save. If you don't, those cases of diapers are so expensive, my goodness. So in the 90s to 2000s, pull-ups and convenience culture. So that's when pull-ups were invented, which are, even worse for toilet learning than diapers. They were very common and continue to be in most high income countries. Disposables are the norm. And then, so the average full day, average of full daytime toilet independence, cloth-based or low resource settings, about 18 months. Disposable heavy settings, United States, Europe, Israel, etc., 30 to 36 months. And so, again, children's bodies and biology have not changed, but our expectations and cultural expectations and this convenience, and the invention of the disposable diaper, that's what changed everything. We don't have to subscribe to that. We can do our own thing. When we learn more like this, then we're like, I don't need to be having them in diapers for all this long time. So signs of readiness, the child is staying dry for longer periods. They're starting to get more used to holding it a little bit. They are interested in what you're doing when you are using the bathroom, and they're curious about the potty chair. They may tell you, or they may start hiding. Some of you might have children who like to go behind the furniture or hide behind a curtain, when they're going. So you start to recognize the signs pretty quickly. Because remember, when they're babies, early on, they pee small amounts more frequently. And, we notice not just when they're babies, but when they're just starting out doing toilet independence, about 15, 16 months, we can notice if they're in underwear, we'll notice right away because it'll be wet, obviously, right? But we go to the bathroom before it becomes a big mess. But also, don't be afraid of big messes. This is part of the gig. As caregivers and or parents, we sign up. So caregivers, meaning us at school, all the staff at school, we sign up to come in contact with urine, BMs, vomit, blood, saliva, mucus. This is what parents, caregivers, teachers, this is what we sign up to do when we invite children this age into our lives. Pro tip is, again, infant and young toddler is the time when they are curious. And this is a huge one, you guys, often agreeable to trying new things. It is best to start before the age of opposition, when it is natural for the child to just say no to just about everything. I think some of you probably know what I mean by that because you probably have children that are in the age of opposition. But remember, it is never too late. Wherever your child is, meet them there and just get the process started. Remember that saying of the best time to plant a tree is 80 years ago? The second best time is right now. Right now. You just go for it. Just dive right in. And this is going to be your saving grace, okay? Consistency is key. Tell them they are going to start using the potty and then follow through. It can't just be whenever we feel like it or when all the stars align. It has to be every day. You don't have to wait until you have a huge amount of time off of work or any of those things. But stick to the routine. And when children go and spend time, say the parents are, going for a weekend somewhere and the child's with grandparents, make sure the grandparents are on board with this. And we'll send this recording out and you can have grandparents or anyone who is caregiving for your child to watch this video, because it is really important that, oh, they're going to be with their nanny, we're just going to put them in diapers. That is going to erase all the progress that has been made. Probably not all of it, but enough of it that it's really disappointing. So just stick to the routine. It should be predictable, just like when we wake up, we brush our teeth. We change out of our pajamas. That's just what we do every single morning. So build it in at between every transition or roughly 45-minute intervals, gradually lengthening as they get more capable of holding it longer and longer. And remember that behavior is situational. So children respond to the expectations that are set, either at home or at school. And when I give these types of presentations to the teachers, we talk about, have you ever run into one of the families at the grocery store or at Target or something, and the child is having a full-on meltdown over not getting a treat or a toy that they wanted, where they would never behave that way at school? Or vice versa. We have parents say, why are they so engaged and well behaved here at school? It's all about the consistency of the expectations that are set. So we're not going to force or shame any families into doing this with us, but this is what we do at school. So please just support us by sending the underwear. Even if you're not quite ready to commit at home, it will go light years faster if you do commit at home. But we, as Montessorians, we want to stick with what is developmentally appropriate at we're the professionals with this training, and we know that this is the time to do it. So we want to get started on it. And a lot of families have been really happy that we've sort of done the heavy lifting and gotten started, but I'm telling you, it will go much smoother if families and schools are aligned, but we also don't need to wait for families to be on board with it because it really is what is developmentally appropriate for them at this age. Wearing just underwear and a top is helpful at first, like this, when you're at home. Child can just wear underwear and a top, so there's, less barriers, but not going without. I've had parents ask me, well, what should I just have them be naked all the time? Their private areas are very fragile parts of their body, and we don't want them getting hurt. We don't want them, that's a lot of, rubbing on a carpet. It's just not really very comfortable. It doesn't protect their dignity and their privacy. So, a top and some underwear is just fine to do. If it's summer and they're just in their underwear, that's also fine too. Because remember, they've never known a time without a diaper on their body from the moment that the first diaper goes on. In most cases, children have had a diaper on their body even before they ate anything for the first time outside of the womb. They have known and likely loved their diaper as long as they've known and loved you. It can feel like a security blanket, like my friend Linus down here. And there may be some separation anxiety. Routine is everything for toddlers. This is a big change, but that routine has to mean something. We have to say, this is what we're doing and we're sticking with it. Because when we waffle, it's just going to be it's not going to be worth it at all. So let's stay focused and stay consistent. Sometimes they think they have more time than they do to get to the bathroom. So in the beginning, there's a lot of reminders, and slowly they start to take over that, recognizing the feeling and voicing that they need to go or just going to the bathroom. Um, but as they become more confident and they might pee on the bathroom floor because they've underestimated the time that they needed to get there or the time they have before it really needs to be, that's where they need to be. The puddle may be larger than ever before, but that is good. That means that they're even more ready because they've been holding it longer. Remember, we talked about babies and young toddlers, they urinate more frequently, smaller amounts. But as they get more skilled and more capable of recognizing how to keep their sphincter nice and tight, they will be able to hold it longer. But remember, we're not going to be distracted by or discouraged by bigger messes because, again, having children this age in our life, we sign up for this kind of business. It is a matter of connecting that sensation to mobilizing their body to make it to the bathroom in time. So again, do with them, not to them or for them. Involve them from the start. They can take off their own wet items and place them in the hamper. They can empty the potty chair insert into the toilet and then we clean it out and sanitize. They definitely should be routinely washing their hands afterwards, as you see here. At home, you can get a stool so that they can reach the bathroom sink. They can dress themselves in fresh clothing. And if a child wets the bed into elementary years, they can wash their bedding. There's no shame. This is just what we do when we have soiled sheets. My son is not home right now. He's 18 and he is a ski instructor in Colorado. So he's not here to hear me tell you this, but he wet the bed until he was 13, even though he was completely toilet independent during the day, at about 17 or 18 months. But then he wet the bed at night because he was the heaviest sleeper. I could turn on all the lights and vacuum and it would not wake him up. And there was no way. I was trying all of the suggestions that everybody gave me, lug him to the bathroom at 10 o'clock at night, or, just everything. I mean, I had a plastic cover on the bed, the mattress, and we just went with it. We really couldn't, there wasn't much to be done about the nighttime wetting. Some children are really quick and it just happens for them. And some children, it takes a lot longer. And from the research and the anecdotal, histories of people, boys can take a lot longer. I had a lot of men who admitted to me, yeah, I wet until I was about 12 or 13. Yeah, it's just part of what we do. But, just like they're, washing dishes, washing their own hair, doing all these things, they can also, if they can operate an iPad in elementary, they can definitely operate a washing machine, even if they need a stool to get the things up in there. And again, let's try to hold off on the iPads, please, as long as you can. So setting up this space, this is a very important topic in Montessori. The environment is really, really important. The environment, the adult, and the child are the three sort of legs of the stool that make up the Montessori method. So the bathroom is a place where everyone spends a lot of time. We want to make it enjoyable, put art on the walls, make it fresh smelling, have low chairs, stools, for the child and the adult. Children shouldn't have to sit on the cold floor with the bare tushy. Let's make sure we give them a little stool to sit on while they're pulling their pants up and down. Um, Potty chair with a back and the sides on it like this makes them feel secure, and then they can dump the insert independently, and then you wash or sanitize it. Cotton training underpants, they're thicker. Um, there are even training underpants with a thin plastic outer layer, which allows the wetness to be felt, but has a little bit of a less mess for the adults to clean up, as opposed to pull-ups, which are a huge obstacle to toilet learning. We'll talk, pull-ups are really one of the inventions that I wish was not a thing. Avoid putting underpants over pull-ups. This is very, very, very confusing. Um, it should be one or the other. And honestly, it should just be the cotton underpants at a certain point. We just make that commitment and rip off the band-aid and just go for it. I've had parents ask me, where should we put the potty? Should we put it in their playroom where they're playing? Should I bring it into the kitchen when they're with me when I'm cooking? No one else goes to the bathroom anywhere else but in the bathroom. It can be tempting to have it travel around the house with the child, but no one else goes to the bathroom in the kitchen, the bedroom, the living room. If the child is already used to having it somewhere else, tell them it actually belongs in the bathroom because that's where the toilet is. Let them carry it themselves so that they're part of the process. Don't just have it disappear one day. That would be very, very confusing for them. So involve them in that process, but having the potty outside, mm-mm. It needs to be logical and make sense, right? The potty needs to be where the toilet is because that's where we go. Um, Besides, there will be moments when the child has to go, but no one knows where the potty was left, and then we're in real trouble. So keeping it in the bathroom is really important. Moving the potty confuses the child's sense of order and makes it unclear where the appropriate place is to go. Clothing choices. So avoiding tricky snaps, buttons, zippers. Once a child is walking, having onesies that snap under the crotch is really going to be a hindrance and an obstacle for their toilet independence. So, I would keep the onesies for when they're really little and they're laying down and you're diapering them laying down. But once they are standing, there's no way for them to manage those snaps by themselves. So you really want to move to an elastic waistband. Also, avoiding dresses that require a lot of coordination to pull up and out of the way when sitting on the potty. I know that it's such a trend, and we love to put the little girls in those big fluffy dresses with all the tulle and everything, the layers and layers of ruffles. But imagine trying to use the potty with having to hold up all of that fabric. It's very hard for them. So we want to give them the best possible chances of success. Shoes that can be rinsed off are really helpful. So these native shoes are really nice because they are definitely, you can rinse them off. They're not, they don't need to go in the washing machine or anything. They can just be rinsed off. Crocs are really tricky for young children. It's easy for them to put them on, but they actually make it hard for them to really get a good handle on their balance and their walking and their running and all of the things that they do that are active because it doesn't have as much support. And I've had children in all my years in the classrooms, so many accidents when the children just literally trip over their own feet when they're in Crocs. And I had a child go smack right into the flat part, not even the corner of a shelf, but the flat part of the end of a shelf. And boy, he split his forehead right open. So Crocs, while they're cute and they're easy, it really isn't the ideal choice for toddlers when they are learning, when they're getting really solid on their feet. And that accident actually happened in the children's house. It wasn't even in toddlers. So they're still working on all of that balance and equilibrium while they are in children's house, even. So dressing themselves, we're often afraid to let children do it for themselves because they might do it wrong, such as putting pants on backwards or putting shoes on the wrong feet. But ask yourself, what is the real harm of that? versus the real harm of preventing them from learning. Remember, it's all about access. When we, are constantly correcting them, oh, your pants are on backwards, your shoes are on the wrong feet, your shirt's inside out. None of that really matters. What really matters is that they were able to do it independently. The next level is showing them how to know how to line up their shoes so they can see which shoes go on which foot. Know how to look at a shirt and see that the seam is on the outside, so they need to flip it inside. All of those things come later. We don't need to worry about that right now. Just dressing and undressing oneself is the most important thing at this point. So share in the joy, but there's no need to engage in rewards. We don't need to bribe them with candy or treats or stickers. The accomplishment is the reward. And let the child, like we said, sit and undress, sit, wipe, flush, and wash hands. Stay calm and neutral through accidents. We don't ever want to shame them or make it feel like we're disappointed in them because they wet in their pants or didn't quite make it to the toilet. They're really trying. No one wants to do that intentionally. No child wants to. They might get really interested in what they're doing and get distracted and not want to stop playing, but they're not thinking, I'm going to pee and make my mama really mad. No, this is just really part of the learning. So we have to trust the child and observe with kindness. Provide opportunities, not pressure. Choosing a potty chair or a seat insert. So I have some parents ask me, should I have a seat insert like this or a potty chair on the floor? And it really depends on the child. So if you have a particularly tiny child, they might feel more comfortable on the potty on the floor. If you have a child that's bigger and them sitting on that potty is really cumbersome and their knees are up to their nose, they probably need to sit on the toilet, but with an insert. And some children are really, so be mindful of automatic flush sensors, which might frighten toddlers. So, if you're at the airport or you're at wherever you are out in the world, restaurants that have automatic sensors, that can really scare the little pants off the toddlers because at the previous school where I was, we did this remodel of the children's bathrooms and we got child-sized toilets and everything was beautiful. And we thought, well, we will solve the problem of them forgetting to flush by putting automatic flush sensors. Well, it caused way more trouble than ever having to remind them to flush. And really, the forgetting to flush, that's the natural consequence. That's the control of error. We remind them and show them, oh, how does this look? Does this look like it was flushed or not? Rather than it doing it automatically, but it scared the toddlers so much that they were afraid to go in the bathroom because it would just flush spontaneously and they were really nervous about it. So that really was a hindrance to their toileting independence. We ended up putting a little traffic cone over it so that we didn't so that they wouldn't be afraid of that spontaneous flushing. The language really matters. So how we talk with children, it really, really matters. Use anatomically correct language for body parts and processes. It's a natural human process, not something ever to be described as stinky or icky. There should be no shame attached to it. I think sometimes adults think it's really funny to be like, ooh, that's a stinky one. That's so not good. It's so disrespectful to the child, right? There should be no shame attached to it. That might be enough for them to not want to try to go potty on the potty. We can just say, I see you, and when they've wet in their pants, I see you have wet pants. We're gonna go change them instead of you've had an accident, right? I know I've used the word accident earlier because that's what people most often refer to, but I would love for us to shift that culture so that instead of saying you've had an accident, which has a negative connotation to it, we can just literally say accurately what happened. I see you have wet pants. We're gonna go change them. And it's important to ask, or not to ask, excuse me, not to ask, but rather to state, now that you've gotten up from your nap, it's time to go use the potty. Not, do you want to use the potty? Do you feel like you need to go potty? We don't need to do any of that. We literally just say, because we know they're going to have to go after they're napping, or they're already wet and they need to be changed. So now that you've gotten up from your nap, it's time to go use the potty or the toilet. Call attention to how good it feels to be clean and dry. Oh, that must feel so nice to be so clean and dry. Saying things like that versus like, good job, or, those kind of like empty platitudes. Really using language very, very specifically and impactfully will help them to call attention to what it is that we actually want them to be aware of, which is the feeling of being clean and dry. So we touched on this a bit. You be neutral in our words, our emotions, and our reactions. It can be tempting to celebrate in a big way. Yay! Yay, you did it, you did it. But consider, no one cheers for you when you come out of the bathroom. That would actually be quite embarrassing. Or it puts added pressure to be consistently successful when there's an implication that you'll be disappointed in them if they don't go in the potty, right? And there's not always going to be somebody there to give them accolades and cheer them on when they go potty. This is literally, we need to ask ourselves, why are we cheering for a natural process that every human does? This is just the accomplishment itself is the reward enough. I know that seems maybe like a little cruel. I'm sorry, but it doesn't need to be this big production. Make it natural. This is a natural part of being a human. So our attitude is the most influential factor. It truly is. This is what we call the psychological environment. What type of environment are we creating? So our attitude influences the child's. Keep it perfectly normal. No rewards and certainly no punishments. Make it relaxing and pleasant. Never force, bully, or manipulate. Remember, we can't rush children to walk or talk. We can't force them to walk or talk. We can, however, hinder it by keeping babies in containers, by never giving them freedom of movement, by giving them screens all the time. Those are things that we can do to hinder their walking and talking, but eventually they will walk and talk. With toilet independence, we can hinder it as long as we want because by just not allowing or encouraging the opportunity, it's not something that just their body is doing on its own. It needs to have access to the bathroom and an environment, psychological and physical, that is supporting this. I sometimes have parents say, I can never get my child to sit on the potty, or they would sit there all the live long day if I let them. Like these young ladies, they look like they're set for the afternoon. I really wouldn't let them sit for a very long time because it really actually isn't great for their body to be in that position for an extended period. Um, and just kind of tighten it up a little bit to whatever seems reasonable for your child. So, as far as these considerations, we want to think about toilet learning as a milestone that's analogous to moving from liquids, breastfeeding or formula, to purees and solid foods. If the child doesn't care for the solid food at first, would we just allow them to stay on a bottle forever? Of course not. We would keep trying and keep offering. So we're not going to say, oh, because it didn't work the first day or week, oh, they're not ready and not revisit it for another year. No, no, no. We just continue. This is what we're doing, and we're just going to keep working at it. I thought these were sort of from an anthropological point of view very interesting. So humans are the only species that allow our offspring to sit in their own urine and feces. That's got to say something, right? That we allow that to happen. So other species instinctually clean off their offspring immediately so as to not attract predators or allow infections or diseases. But we must also clean them immediately so we can normalize again the feeling of being clean and dry. That's what this all comes back to, the feeling of being clean and dry. We live in an age of convenience, but disposable diapers have significant disadvantages. Just to recap a little bit here. So, number one, the child never feels wet, but a warm, humid environment is omnipresent, making the child less aware of what is going on in that area. Diaper rashes are more common in disposables because it is not as quickly noticeable when a child is wet, and that humidity is trapped in there all the time. Many cultures incorporate toilet learning right from the beginning. Very few countries tend to keep children in diapers or pull-ups into the preschool years. Again, please don't feel any shame if your child is still in pull-ups when they are in children's house. We can just start tomorrow. And the children's teachers at our schools should be really ready to be on board with that. So they will probably be thrilled to pieces because we want to spend time with the children doing the materials and giving presentations and having conversations, not constantly being in the bathroom. Not that it's a burden on us, but we know that the child is missing learning time when they are not toilet independent and when they've gotten to the children's house. So, Consider the ecological ramifications that archaeologists digging these diapers up hundreds of years from now, forehead slap emoji. Oh my goodness. That is a major contribution that we're making to the landfills, and not in a good way. So the diaper companies, they're profiting big time. You will save a lot of money by toilet learning by 16 to 18 months. Again, we talked about the cases and cases of diapers, um, and stopping at 18 months versus doubling your time having that weekly expenditure. Let's just cut that out. So here's a commercial, an ad. But really I want you to think about it. Think about all the things that we have been talking about, that this is very misleading. Pull-ups do not work just like underwear. So let's take a moment and watch this.
Turd, you hear that? They're coming.
Got this.
Isn't this exciting? We're potty training.
Oh, I'm nervous, you ring. So much could go wrong.
But so much could go right. He's got pull-ups training pants. They work just like undies, so he can build up those skills. And if accidents happen, he's got backup. Come on, look at that confidence.
Oh, I wish I had some of that.
This is a journey, Turd. Loosen up.
Careful what you wish for.
I'm a big kid now.
So you can see why it's very oh, whoopsie, hold on. There we go. It's misleading and it's confusing to have these kinds of, oh, why is it still going there? Hold on a moment. Let me make sure. Sorry, got a little problem with our technology. We'll get to the next slide. There we go. Okay. But this is why toilet learning is such a confusing and misleading and mysterious, part of parenting. Toilet learning is one of the most confusing parts. There may be mixed messages coming from our family members, from our neighbors, from the school, from our own experiences, from other caregivers, from society, from commercials on TV. There's a lot of information coming at us, and we can, given what we know now about toddler development and why it is important to start now, and how to do it, we can do this. I promise we can do this. And our schools we're here for it. We're here to do this with you. We hold children back from natural development by waiting. We often fall back on old tricks like rewards, and that's when we know we've waited too long. If we have to bribe them to do a natural bodily function, we've waited too long. But again, don't let that just deter you. Please stop giving them candies for it, but we're just going to keep moving. I see some questions coming in the chat. We'll get to them. We're almost to the end here, and then we'll open up the chat and see what we have going on there. So I often have parents ask me about pee versus a BM, so urine versus bowel movement. They can be very different experiences. I love this book by Taro Gomi. He's just a brilliant Japanese illustrator. Everyone poops. But sometimes a child reliably goes to the bathroom for urine, but has a harder time with BMs. And so there's a lot of reasons for that. They may be afraid of the splash when it hits the water. They may be embarrassed. It's uncomfortable. It smells. Again, that's why it's really important that we never, ever, ever let on when we are like, ooh, that's a bad one. Let's not ever say that, or even show an expression of anything other than, let's get you changed. Be patient and consistent, never shaming or using fear as a tactic. When you see a child doing the poop dance, we can simply say, I can tell you have to poop. You may use your potty or the toilet. Minimal words, giving options for autonomy. They may hide in the corner or go behind furniture. This is a sign that they may yearn for more privacy when they go. Consider stepping out of the bathroom or just stay around the corner, because this was interesting. So you might have heard of the toilet learning book called Oh Crap. And I don't recommend it for a few important things, like they do go down that road of, big accolades and rewards and all of that, which I feel is really unnecessary and confusing for a child. But I read through some of the sections, and one of the things that stood out to me was this anecdote that she told about Ina May Gaskin, who, if any of you have done had a doula or midwives for your birthing experience, or maybe you've heard of Ina May Gaskin. She was a famous midwife and she did lots of birthing classes and she understood really well what it takes to relax a mother's body enough to birth a baby. You really have to be in a state of mind and a state of physical, consciousness to be able to birth a baby. So and this might be kind of gross. I'm so sorry. This is a little bit like, well, you know what? We're talking about poop. So, what Ina May Gaskin did to try to illustrate to mothers what all goes into being able to relax your body enough to birth a baby, she would have the mother sit in a circle and put a silver bowl in the middle with a $100 bill in it. And she would say, okay, any one of you who could get in front of everybody here and poop right into that bowl, you can keep the $100. Well, to this day, nobody has done it because people don't like to poop in front of an audience, right? And so it might just be, and why would we think that children would be any different? So let's give them some privacy if they need it, but stay close by so that they feel the comfort and security. Some children don't care. But other children, they don't want to have an adult staring at them or somebody else staring at them when they're trying to use the bathroom. We talked a little bit about that. Nighttime can be the most difficult. Very little can be done about it. Like I said, I tried it all, and finally, I just had to succumb to the idea that he was going to wet until he wasn't going to wet anymore. And we've talked about this. Be sure not to let our own phobias about handling soiled items be visible to them. You don't want to shame them. They have no choice in the matter. So if we make them feel bad about it, it's not going to bode well for anyone. So the ways that families can support toileting at school, first of all, is to do the same thing at home. But if you're not quite there yet, and that's okay, we're not trying to force or shame anybody into this, but please help us. So send plenty of cotton underwear, extra clothes, and a wet bag. Trust the process and follow through at home. Read books about it at home. Allow them to see that it's just what we do. Even if you're apprehensive to start at home, support this work at school. You may be surprised at the results. We have plastic bags, but being conscious of the environment, these bags here are great. They're super inexpensive off, at any store, Target or Amazon or whatever, that we can send wet, soiled clothing back and forth. Oh, hold on. One little video. So and we're right about 7:30, so then we'll have time for some questions. But when a toddler is determined, time stands still for them. It can be almost painful for adults to give toddlers the time that it may take for them to accomplish their goals, but we must. We must. And here's a little video. Now I'm going to tell you already that it is 2 minutes and 32 seconds long. And so it's going to feel really long for the adults to sit and let this happen for as long as 2 minutes and 32 seconds. But remember, it's only 2.5 minutes. Look at what the toddler is doing and think about how much you want to jump in and do this for him. But we have to resist because spoiler alert, it's a really good happy ending. All right, let's give him 2 minutes and 32 seconds. This is a video from one of our schools. That is a proud child. So it was 2 minutes and 32 seconds of our lives to allow this child to go through the process. He was practically on his head. The baby Pilates he was doing in all these ways was just really something to see. But he tried a million different ways and he finally got it and he had that opportunity. So, we have to remember that their brains are not at the speed that ours are. So things will take longer. Dressing, toileting, cleaning up after oneself, all of the things. It will take longer, but they have to go through this process so that they can figure out how to tighten up what they're doing and then be able to do it with the efficiency that adults do. Um, so give them the time and you'll see that happy face at the end. It's really exciting. A couple final slides here on toileting for neurodivergent children. So please refrain from giving accommodations to children that don't need them like this, but you might have children that do. So honor the child's readiness, not based solely on age. This could be later if they have different types of, learning delays or development delays. And that is something that you and your pediatrician and your teachers can work on together. Respecting autonomy and dignity, avoid shaming or pressuring, frame it as learning a new skill, not as a test of compliance. Use communication that works for them. Some children, it's spoken words, AAC, gestures, or visuals. Accommodate sensory needs. A lot of this we've already just talked about, but it's being extra sensitive for neurodivergent children. Accommodate the sensory needs. Bathrooms can be loud, bright, or smell strongly, which can overwhelm some children. And then if a child really needs this, you could support neurodivergent children by, calling attention even more so to the awareness of how their body is feeling. Create a very, very, very predictable routine, which I would recommend anyway. Honor and support communication. Make the bathroom a comfortable place. We've talked about all these things. Encourage without pressure, but this is sort of an extra if your child really needs this visual supports. So first, then. First this, then this. First, we pull down our underwear, then we sit on the toilet, then we get the toilet paper, then we wipe, then we pull up our underpants, then we flush, then we wash our hands, and then we finish. We don't need to have a chart like this for children unless they really need it. But if they do, there's absolutely nothing wrong with putting that out for them so that they can really see, okay, where are we in this process? We're at the toilet paper stage. We'll do that. And then, yes, and then this is the end. So thank you. This is my son when he was that age. You saw the other pictures, so you can see how much he's grown. But this is on the North Shore of Lake Superior, just one of our most favorite places to be. Kelsey Patterath is our National Director of Inclusive Practices. She put together those last two slides to add on to support our children that are neurodivergent. So I'm going to stop this sharing and we'll go into the chat and we'll remove the spotlight for right now. If anybody wants to share anything, let's see what we've got in our questions here. So Lauren says, my 2.5-year-old is newly potty trained. He is doing great, and we are so proud, but nighttime is a struggle. He continuously wants to go potty after we've done bath, potty, books, bed. Any suggestions? This is a matter of knowing your child really well. Does he really have to go? Or is he very cleverly postponing bedtime, which, when we are not firm about that, it can be really, really misleading to a child. And it's almost not even it really isn't their fault that they push and push and push because we've allowed it sometimes and we allow it more other times and sometimes we don't allow it at all, but it really needs to be consistent. Consistency is it's this unspoken language. It is like a third teacher to toddlers. The consistency, it almost doesn't matter what we say or anything else as long as it's consistent. You can tell him, because by the time he's done with books, he may have to go again. So you could just say, okay, this will be your last time. Do you need to go potty one more time before bed? And the answer could be yes, please, or no, thank you. And that's it. Hope that's helpful. I know it's easier said than done. Believe me, I know it's easier said than done. Thoughts on using cloth diapers as training underwear that keeps the mess more contained but allows them to feel the wet. So I love and recommend cloth diapers from the beginning. That's all my son used was cloth diapers until he, was wetting at night and were no cloth diapers that fit his body at that point. So we did actually have to go to nighttime pull-ups. And I'm talking about when he's like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. But cloth diapers are definitely, but once they start doing when they start going to the potty, it's really, really impossible. You want to think about what they can manage themselves. So it would be really hard for a toddler to put on their own cloth diaper and fasten it. It's just better just to go to underwear. Get the thick ones though. There's like different levels of thicknesses. Go for the gold. Go for like the thickest of the thickest. But then being able to pull it up and down like regular underwear, but really feel the wetness. And remember, we just have to commit to knowing that there's going to be some messes and keep some spray bottles around and the cloths around so that we can just, it's just like if you get a new puppy. I hate to compare children to puppies, but it will really it takes time. It really does take time. So, um, let's see here. I have a 3.5-year-old that is firmly in the opposition stage, absolutely refuses to go near the potty. I've been avoiding forcing him as to try as to not want to create a negative experience. Any advice? That is hard when they've become that age and they really, really don't want to go. Um, this may feel harsh, but there might be a time when you just don't buy any more disposables and you just go for the underwear. And be prepared for there to be messes around, but I really don't think it'll last very long because no one wants to be wet like that. No one wants to have a soiled bottom. It really, and at school, no one wants to be doing that in front of their friends. Like, that is not shame that we are imposing on them. It is just a feeling of, oh, remember what we said about the absorbent mind? This isn't what people my age are doing. This isn't what goes on here. And not in a shameful way, but just like a light bulb way, like, oh, that's actually not what we're doing anymore. And again, I know that's easier said than done, but you could take them to the store, let them pick out the thick underwear that they want, and say, we're not buying diapers anymore. Or we're buying them only for sleeping time. That's it. But during the day, we're not going to buy them anymore. And just commit. And I know that that is like scary. It's really scary. Um, but it really won't take too long, I don't think, at that point when they're 3.5, unless there's some developmental delays. Like I said, we don't want to put any, standardized time limits on children in case there is anything like that. But I would just go for it. Erica says, wow, that's a determined toddler, right? I mean, that was really, when she shared that video, it was really eye-opening. Like, that really is, um, that's what they can do if we don't interfere. And it's a good lesson for us as the adults. Krista says, I have an 18-month-old and we just started potty training, but backed off when she started withholding. Any tips? Again, don't back off. Just keep going. I'm curious what that means withholding. Would you feel comfortable unmuting and let us know what you mean by that? Are you still with us?
Yep, I'm still here.
Oh, thank you, Krista. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did about 2.5 days, and by the third day, the half day we did, she like had a couple accidents in the morning on the floor. The prior days we had a couple of successes on the potty.
Mhm.
And then she like had a couple accidents on the floor, and then she went the entire rest of the day and didn't pee. And then we put a diaper on her for nap, and she immediately pooped, immediately peed. And so like
Mhm.
she wasn't comfortable to like go on the potty. And then also like whenever we said, okay, let's sit on the potty, it's time to sit on the potty, and she like started crying and was like really upset. And so we're like, okay, she's like, we don't want to create a bad experience, so we're going to take a step back,
Mhm.
because we didn't want to like trying to keep all the experiences positive. And like even later that day we said, okay, we're going to put the diaper back on, take a nap. Woke up, and then we're like, okay, we'll just keep the diaper on this afternoon. And then she like voluntarily went and like sat and read a potty book on the potty, just like sitting there, diaper on, whatever, but just like trying to give her good experiences.
Mhm.
Um, and that was last week. And so
Mhm.
we've kind of backed off and just said, okay, maybe we need to give it a little time to like let that experience kind of dwindle in her mind. But
Mhm.
what are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are looking at this as a positive. She's able to hold it for a really long time. And
Yeah.
unless we're worried about it being like a constipation thing or a physical problem, um, that's a really good sign, you know? But I wouldn't stop reminding her throughout the whole day. And again, not asking, but saying, oh, we just finished snack. It's time to use the bathroom, and
Hmm.
she can come with you or not come with you, right? Again, there's no forcing, but building it into the routine as part of the routine and not just, a couple days in backing off. You gotta go for it, Krista. I know it's scary. That's why I do this presentation because I am not trying to underestimate how scary it is to have our child, they're crying, they're showing us that they're not happy right now. Well, we're not going to force them to do anything. But if she's holding it that long, she's absolutely ready. And oh my goodness, Krista, I want this for you so badly that you will be free of having a toddler in diapers. It will be a game changer in your life, and anybody else who's around her. So try again, but again, go gentle. Don't look crestfallen when there's an accident on the floor. It's just natural. It's just consider again, like if we got a puppy and they were, having accidents on the floor, that is just part of that phase of raising children. Just like we wouldn't give up on a dog and put a diaper on them, right? We don't need to do
Hmm.
that with children either. At that age, when they're walking, they absolutely can do this. It's just a matter of making that connection. And it sounds like she's got the connection because she's holding it. Does that make sense? I don't want to sound cruel, but I
Yeah.
believe in you. I can do this, I promise.
Man, I just need another really long weekend where we don't all have the flu.
Oh, I wish that for you to not have the flu and have a nice long weekend. Thank you. Um,
Thank you.
yes, Olivia says, can you recommend some books about toilet training to keep at home, both for the adults and toddler books? Yes. So there is, let me just pull this up really quickly. Um, there is an author, and all of our schools have all three of her books in our schools. Um, Let me pull this up really swiftly for you. Okay, and I'll share my screen. One moment. It is anything by where is she? Simone Davies. So she has the Montessori child, the Montessori baby, and then she has, oh, where's the Montessori toddler? Montessori toddler. This is the one. And it's about everything Montessori toddler. So there's going to be and what I love about this book so much is that first of all, it's beautiful. It's really easy to pour through it. I mean, this could be like, once you pick it up, you can't put it down because what she says is going to resonate so much. But you can open up to a section on sleep. You can open up to a section on feeding. You can open up to a section on toileting. So these books by Simone Davies are huge, and our schools have all three of these books in there. You could ask the school leader if you could borrow them, but also it's well worth the investment. And they make great shower gifts too, because new parents, they just don't, these babies, they don't come with an instruction manual, and those books are actually the closest that I know of an instruction manual for infants, toddlers, and children's house age children. And as far as like um books for the toddlers for them to sit with. We can share. Let me see if I have that. Did I have a slide that had all those books on it? Everyone Poops by Taro Gomi. I mean, literally just Google and go through. And I can also make sure to share with the school leaders. But there are a ton of books out there. I would try to stay away from like make it as realistic as possible, not like bears sitting on the toilet, or like talking animals. Make it feel really accessible, even if it's a cartoon, but it's real children doing this. Um, Try to think about the principles that we talked about, avoiding the rewards, avoiding, any of those kind of like, let's throw a big party every time it happens. Look through it and see, do you think that this book, look through it with a sort of, we can call it a Montessori lens. Will this sort of fit with what we're talking about? But also you can ask at your schools as well for book recommendations. Jamie says, when we start, do we go all in at home in the morning, night, and at school, or do we do it gradually? All in, Jamie. Just go for it. all in. Or Jaime, I'm sorry, I don't know how to, I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, but go for it all the way. Um, the drips and drabs and the starting and stopping and the, behavioral, remember we talked about is conditional. What is expected here will be what they do. What is expected here is what they will do. And we at our schools are ready to go all full in with you on this. Let's just do it. Um, the going back and forth just isn't going to be fruitful. To add to my question, does that mean we switch to underwear completely, even during naps and bedtime? So I really think that the sleeping part, and this is going to vary from child to child. Watch what happens with your child. If you put a diaper on them at nap time and they wake up dry consistently, switch to underwear, you know? But if they wake up sopping wet every single time, they just don't have the control necessarily when they're asleep is the thing. And so you want to wait until they're consistently dry. I'd give it a week if they're consistently dry at nap, and then maybe at bedtime even. It's not uncommon, especially again, I don't want to gender stereotype, but the girls tend to be drier at night and nap faster. But that won't be confusing because sleep is a different state of consciousness than being awake. But all the time awake, all the time underwear. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Feel free to unmute or um, drop them in the chat. I hope this was helpful. I know it's easier said than done. So don't think that I don't know this isn't a real big challenge and a really big deal. But I promise your life will change when you just don't have those diapers in your life anymore. And their life will change. They can focus on all their other amazing development that they're doing at this age. Will you get a copy of the recording? I will send this out to all the school leaders and then they should send it out. If they don't send it out by the end of the week, then just send them a little email reminder and then they will definitely poke me for a reminder and we'll get it going. Yes. Oh, thank you so much to all of you for coming. I really appreciate your time. It's a cold winter's night, so we can say goodnight unless there's any other things to discuss, but I really appreciate you and um, hope to see you soon in the schools. And tell your friends and family to come to our schools. Have them sign up for tours. We want more of families like this in our schools, so please refer us. And have a wonderful evening. Okay, bye-bye.